Hello and welcome to Birth of a New Dimension. I don't know if you could just hear that little sound, but that is the sound of my boss, Miss Ashley the cat, sitting on my lap. She will be doing full supervisory duties during the recording of this particular broadcast. So welcome to the Birth of a New Dimension. I call this radio show Birth of a New Dimension because that is literally what we are presently experiencing. And the dimension that we are moving out of is a dimension of limitation and duality. And when I say new dimension, it means a restructuring of reality, and the format or the tool or the shape that is allowing us to do this restructuring is called the flying rainbow lasagna. So the flying rainbow lasagna is the basis for, or the foundation for all of my work here, for all of my artwork and my sculptures, and also for my body and my physical existence. So if you are new to my broadcasts, or if you're not new to my broadcasts, I'll play your favorite song with my voice. I am a galactic walk-in, and these are the best terms that I've found in this time and place to describe my experience. I am an abstraction, abstract energy form and abstract consciousness. I don't usually have a face and two arms and two legs, but I do right now, because I came into this adult human female body at age 27, when this body was 27 chronological years old, when the previous occupant of this body, the ego that used to live here for 27 years, was murdered. She was part of a ritual sacrifice as part of the satanic world. And when I say satanic, please do not misinterpret me as referring to the Bible or being a biblical literalist. I'm referring to a race of space beings, a race of non-terrestrial presences that use technology. And their technology is not based upon electrons flowing in a wire as terrestrial technology is based. It is based on trapped and victimized consciousness, or let's say consciousness that is diminished in its full expression of who and what it is, and it involves distorting the time field and distorting DNA. So I'll also tell you, on the radio here, I paint a picture with my voice. I try to do the best that I can. However, you have to understand it's like fighting with one hand tied behind my back, because I'm really primarily visually oriented, and I understand all of these things as shapes and colors, and so I really prefer to explain it and present it in that way. So I have a set of recorded videos and recorded webinars that are all about this. I encourage you to link up with them there on teachable.com. The best way to find it is to just search for Flying Rainbow Lasagna University. And there you will find several courses that you can enroll in. And I've also been doing this through live Facebook video messages where I can share the pictures and the diagrams that I draw in order to get you to understand what this is. So if you can, please access my website. Please go to Flying Rainbow Lasagna University. Please participate in my online webinars. For now, I will do my best to use my voice in order to tap into the visualization capacity of our mutual minds in order to understand this trajectory through reality that we are experiencing. So we are going through the time vortex, and the time vortex is shaped like a funnel, like that you would use to pour liquid into a jar. If you had that funnel with the fat end on the base of the table and the pointy end pointing up to the sky. And that is the basic shape of your life. And the concept is that this is a refinery of consciousness, where your consciousness is refined away from the characteristics that are not who you really are on an empirical level, and towards the characteristics that you are as the basis of your consciousness. So it is away from the distorted aspects of you and towards the true aspects of you. And I'll go further into this, that in the antediluvian, worldwide, sophisticated, galactically connected culture that we derive from, that is known as Atlantis. Atlantis wasn't just one continent that sunk beneath the waves, like that Donovan song. It is actually a culture that was global, and it it is, there are vestigial traces of it that are still remembered, like the lineages of the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, and going back to pre-pharaonic Egypt. There are some recorded records that show exactly how old that time is, and it is far beyond what is known as recorded human history, which is the past 6,000 years. So this is to understand that there is a large, unrecorded, and dimly remembered arena of human experience on Earth when our bodies functioned much differently than they presently do. And this is also part of why it's so hard to remember that we used to live here and we used to live in a very different format. So we used to have bodies that were like clean running solar furnaces, or connectors to the stellar network. It is the intended format of our body. We were made not to run like steam engines, not to be like combustion, with all of the byproducts of heat and friction and free radicals and carbon dioxide that produces. We were intended to ingest our light directly from the stellar network, and the sun is our local broadcaster of the stellar network, and we are supposed to be able to connect to it using what I describe as our higher faculties. Higher because they are at the level of unconditional love and above. So if we looked at the human spectrum, as comprising the rainbow, and starting at the basic physical layer being red, the mammalian emotions being orange, and the conscious daily waking intellect known as the human mind being yellow, those three layers, or aspects of being, have been the definition of what it is to be human for about the past 10 or 20,000 years, like since the fall of consciousness, since the destruction of the civilization known as Atlantis, that humanity has only been focused and claiming and identifying with its lower level aspects of being. And these are not less valuable. They're lower, just like a note can be low or a note can be high. So these are valuable aspects of your body, but they're not the only things that exist. And for all of recorded human history, humans have defined themselves as a physical container with some mammalian emotions and then a very thin coating of human mitigation, the cerebral thought that goes on top of that. And humans claim that as their own, and they say this is what makes us different from animals. And this is truthful. However, it's not the only aspect of your consciousness, and humans have developed this identity and ego narrative structure while being disconnected from their higher faculties. And your higher faculties are unconditional love, which resides at the center of your chest, and it is not to be confused with mammalian emotions of attraction or revulsion or romantic love. That unconditional love is like a tone. Oh, I'm here in my art studio today. The boss jumped off my lap, so let me just come over here. This is an A note that is tuned to 432 hertz. And we could say that that tone represents the tone of unconditional love, which is an equal sharing, an equal emitting and receiving. And this is what we are supposed to experience in terms of our trajectory through time. We are supposed to be embedded completely in the present moment, not clinging to any experiences of the past and not grasping forward to any expectations of the future. It is being fully installed in the present moment now to such a profound level that your entire system of perception and all of your senses, including your non-physical senses, are all focused on the epicenter of this moment. And that is very powerful to do because most of the time human awareness is dispersed. Like imagine a light that is being dispersed in a giant cone over a large area, and it is dimly illuminating that entire large area. But now imagine how different it is when you take that light and you focus it down to a laser-like precision, and it is all focused on one area and really brilliantly illuminates that smaller area. So that is what we're supposed to be doing with our consciousness and our awareness in time. Instead of having it dispersed and focused dimly over a very large area, we are supposed to focus our awareness in time on this present moment now. And when we do that, we are unconditionally loving. We are accepting and experiencing everything that is about this present moment now. So now we're understanding this as an activity in time. That unconditional love is an activity in time. It does not require a partner, not like romantic love, where you have an object of your desire, like, Miss Ashley, I love you so much. It's not like that at all. It is simply an emitting and receiving of love. And although I'm being facetious about Miss Ashley, my kitty cat boss, being the object of my romantic love, she and many other living things are the partner of unconditional love. So it is a partnerless dance. However, we are sending out and receiving back energy all the time. So unconditional love being expressed to a living organism like a cat would be, if I'm touching her fur, accepting the sensation of touching her fur, or if I'm, interacting with her, accepting everything about what my senses are telling me about her. So it has to do with accepting her personality and, the veracity of what my senses are telling me. If I were in denial, if I said, even though I'm petting her fur and, I think it's soft, it's not actually soft, or I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of some example. If I was, not accepting some aspect of what I perceive in her, that would be considered the antithesis of unconditional love. So this matters because many times people perceive something about a living organism, but when it comes through the anthropomorphic filter, your human-shaped filter, they close down that perception because it is a non-socially acceptable perception. And this gets into what is presently happening in terms of revelations of malevolent activities at high levels of our government and at high levels of Earth's present, human Earth surface society. So I try to keep these broadcasts not topical, and so that they would be appropriate to read at any time, but I'll just tell you that upon the recording of this particular broadcast, humanity and the political realm is in turmoil because the formerly secret practice of human trafficking and child trafficking and pedophilia that is part of ritualized dark magic and the distortion of the time field as it is being practiced on Earth, this information is becoming fully aware or fully available to people on Earth. So this is something that many humans on Earth have suspected and known about for a very long time, did not have the overt confirmation. And now that overt confirmation in terms of actual evidence is coming out. And so I'm doing this broadcast. We're going to focus on love and what love actually is. Unconditional love. This is not to say that you want to hug a miscreant or hug a criminal. That's not that at all. You are unconditionally loving when you accept what your senses are telling you, when you do not deny what you are receiving from the time field in terms of perception. So if you use a family as an example, like in a family, if a little child says, Grandpa so-and-so or Uncle so-and-so touched me wrong, and then the rest of the family says, we refuse to believe this. We do not believe that Uncle so-and-so or Grandpa so-and-so could ever do that. We believe the child is making up stories. There's heavy levels of denial. And that is the antithesis of unconditional love. Unconditional love means you accept what your basic senses are telling you, and you don't make up a rationalization, a story, a narrative ego structure on top of that to deny what you are perceiving. And usually that narrative ego structure is combined with a closing down of the actual heart chakra functioning. And your heart is like an aperture, and when it's open, it is like like a fiber optics cable that light can pass through. And when it is not open, when it is obscured because you don't accept what's coming through it, then information cannot travel through there. And the higher faculties are everything that is on top of the foundation of unconditional love. So what we do, what is suggested to do is to first cultivate a firm foundation of unconditional love through mindfulness and meditation. This means you sit in inner silence throughout your day, and when you are not sitting in inner silence, you observe through mindfulness the actions of your mind. And this is not the end goal of the practice. These are like the training exercises that allow you to accrue enough inner energy of unconditional love to begin utilizing your higher faculties. So unconditional love is like the gas that makes your car go, or the juice that makes a apparatus function, and then you run that energy through the higher faculties, which are your throat chakra, your brow chakra, and your crown chakra. And these three chakras, or energy centers, interpenetrate, and they are like little gyroscopes, and they all fit together, nesting perfectly, and they are part of being connected to the time field. So right now, humanity is not effectively connected to the time field, and humanity is mostly flying blind. People think this is normal, like you just go through your day and you don't know what's coming in the future. That is not normal. And people think that if you can see the future, you are a very special person, you have quote-unquote psychic talents. That is supposed to be what's normal. We are all supposed to have quote-unquote psychic talents and be able to see the future. That is actually your birthright. And it has been genetically diminished through what happened about 10 or 20,000 years ago, the invasion of humanity, when humans were invaded in your thought structures, your emotional structures, and the shaping of your genes, that made it no longer possible to effectively connect to the stellar network, eat pure sunlight, live in a state of unconditional love, and have your higher faculties activated. And the higher faculties, your throat is communication, your brow is perception. It is an aperture, just like your eyeballs are apertures. And let me speak a little bit about this too. Your brow is the level of Christ consciousness. However, it's not about the Christian religion at all. I wish that we could say Christ consciousness is called 1, 2, 3, 4 consciousness, because there's no religion called the 1, 2, 3, 4 religion. And no one would say, I can't do that because it's not part of my religion. So let me just say that the religion called Christianity, practiced on earth right now, has little or nothing to do with your actual Christ chakra on forehead of your body. And the whole idea of the return of Christ to this planet is a reinvigoration or a healing of the Christ chakras of each person on this planet. And we all have these eyeballs that are either blinded, like completely blind, or diminished, maybe nearsighted or farsighted, distorted. And it's making it so that people can't see clearly, and there's a lot of suffering as a result. And that the reinvigoration or healing of this inner eye is part of humanity's healing and part of the planet's healing. It's not just the eye, it is also our connection to the divine, and that's what our crown is. So these two energy centers work in conjunction with one another, just like your heart and lungs work together. Your lungs breathe in the air, and it goes into your blood, and the heart pumps it around your body. Well, this is how your brow and crown work together. Your crown is your connection to the divine or higher intelligence. It's like the librarian of the cosmos. The librarian tells you what books you need to check out from the library. And your eye, your spirit eye on your forehead, that brow chakra, that is like your library card. Once you get that functional, you can read anything. You can learn anything. I love it when people ask me, Aurora, where do you get these ideas from? How do you know about this stuff? How do you paint your paintings? How do you make these videos? And my answer is, I don't get my ideas or my understanding from any other earthly teacher or source. I don't read them in books or glean these ideas from someone else's consciousness. I connect directly to the stellar network. So I sit in meditation. If it's a sunny day, I get the sun directly on my forehead. And these understandings arise internally. It is part of my inner perception. And I also have to tell you that although I'm very flattered if people look at these complex patterns and they think that I am the inventor of all of these complex patterns, I mean, on a cosmic level, a grand scale, yes, I'm part of the divine consciousness that incepted these patterns. However, I have to tell you, here as Aurora in the physical, like I am a perceiver of these patterns. I didn't invent all of this. I invented the flying rainbow lasagna as my contribution in this language that has already been in existence. So this language, these patterns, it is a vibratory language, and I call it the interdimensional language of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone, going over here to my little instrument, and tone being a musical tone. And this is the language that we use in order to communicate with beings that might be in a very different format than us. They might not be biological entities with one face and 2 arms and 2 legs. They might be biological entities that have 8 arms and, 0 mouths. And that's the description of an octopus. And how would you even communicate with an octopus here on your own planet? Humans have not developed a proper integration or whatever, an interface with even other animals that are biological and that you can feel with your five senses on your own planet. So now we are up to the question of how do we blah, 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 blah. Start again. How do we effectively communicate with other beings that might be not even biological? They might be pure abstractions, like energy, just energy that's flowing, just plasma or a cloud. How would we interact with the cloud? What is the sensorium of a cloud? How can we find a common ground? And the answer is through this language of vibration. So we perceive it through our five senses as light and color and sound and music. However, a being that has a different sensory apparatus would perceive it very differently. So now we're starting to come on the idea of, Aurora, you are an abstraction. Why did I have to come into a physical human form? Because as an abstraction, it was very hard to get these ideas across to humanity. And so the crucial idea that I am here to share is my own invention and is the flying rainbow lasagna shape. It's like saying, just drink a little water. It is like saying we have a collaborative art project that is already going, like a big giant mural. And the structure and the basic composition has already been created by many, many other artists that have already come along. And when I came along in 2001 and made my contribution to this large collaborative art project, I had to make sure that it integrated with everything else that had already been created and was not in conflict. And it's my own original, new thing that had never been made before. And that's called the flying rainbow lasagna. It's also analogous to a math proof. In higher levels of math, it doesn't look like an equation anymore. It looks like a set of rational statements. And the rational statements cannot be in conflict with one another. And you solve the proof when you find the final rational statement that, does not conflict with the other things that have already been established. So all of these other patterns of energy and consciousness as it flows in the cosmos have already been established. They're timelines, these beautiful timelines. I tell you, it is like an embroidery, the richest, most complex, three-dimensional, moving, living embroidery you could imagine. And dark magic is when the threads of embroidery are cut by people that aren't experts and then rerouted, or knots are tangles are made in the fabric. And this is what dark magic has been doing through the hijacking of consciousness and the hijacking of creative life force energy and the hijacking or misapplication or hacking of DNA. This is when I say to you that your human operating system, the level of your chakra, your yellow chakra, or at the level of your solar plexus, or your cerebral cortex, the convoluted bumpy surface of your brain, that level of your consciousness is hacked. And it's not the only level of your consciousness. You have access to your higher faculties. So if you can break through the hack by mindfulness and meditation, you begin to get access to your higher faculties. And then you do not need an earthly teacher. You have the librarian of the cosmos and the library of the cosmos at your fingertips, at at whatever you want to know about, you can learn about. And this is attention. Attention is a magical implement that literally emanates from your forehead. It is like an elephant's trunk. This is attention from Greek attenuos, meaning to reach out towards. So with our attention, we attenuate or reach out towards whatever we want to learn about or think about. And this matters. Whatever you're thinking about during your day, you are attenuating to. You are touching it like an elephant, touching it with your trunk. So now we begin to understand how important it is to gain control of our non-physical aspects of self, of our thoughts and our perceptions. Because if you are thinking about someone who is, a criminal or a person who has sexually aberrant practices, it's like you're touching on them and you are touching on that energy. This is not to say that you shouldn't make yourselves aware of the criminal pedophile rings that are going on right now. That's really crucial for healing. And I know it's difficult and uncomfortable and it's a dark topic, but don't turn a blind eye because this is humanity's freedom. When I speak about birth of a new dimension, this is how we are giving birth. And sometimes birth includes uncomfortable sensations. So in the family that is in denial, you might say, Grandpa this or, Uncle this could never do that. Yes, they could, actually, and they did. And you should believe the reportage of the experiencer of the abuse. So this is all about humans beginning to wake up and understand that humanity has been abused and held hostage. And I, hesitate to use the word victimized, but let's say you can be an empowered victim, or it is now time for all of the victims to turn this upside down on its head and reclaim their empowerment. Because the flying rainbow lasagna is how you can be personally empowered. It is why I'm here. That portal shape is how I came into this body. This body was shaped like most of your bodies are shaped like. The genetic structure was shaped like a torus, a donut shape, or like two intersecting tori at 90-degree angles. Again, if we were doing visual stuff and I could show you my sculptures and we could do some drawings, then you would understand this a lot better. Please take my class, take my webinars. That's what we are ordinarily shaped like. And the person who used to be in this body was literally murdered. And it doesn't even have to be done through an actual, gun or a knife. That there are directed energy weapons where it is possible to kill someone long distance without even touching them. And the previous occupant of this body was killed in that way. The blood vessels of her brain were shut down. She had a stroke. She could not have oxygen to her brain, and various parts of the brain were damaged. And so I've been dealing with the artifact of being in a body that has neurological damage when I came into it, but through neuroplasticity, that's the word that I learned for it, you can have other areas of your brain compensate. And what I did was, as a non-physical abstract form, I created the oscillation of the flying rainbow lasagna using the genetic structure of this body. I vibrated this body, just like playing an instrument. I strike my here's my little instrument over here. I play my little instrument. I make it vibrate. My piano's not turned on. I have to turn it on to make it vibrate. Or my guitar, I pluck my guitar and my strings vibrate in this new song. This body is an instrument. And I, as an abstraction, caused it to vibrate in this new format called the flying rainbow lasagna. And this new format is a higher dimensional version of what the old body was. And every time in math, when you add an additional dimension, you add an additional degree of freedom. And the best analogy I can give you, using my voice to paint a picture for you, is imagine a little ant walking on a flat two-dimensional surface, and it cannot jump up off of the surface. It doesn't have the equipment. And now contrast that with, something like a butterfly or even a flying termite, an ant with wings, that it doesn't have to walk across the whole sheet of paper to get from one end to the other. It can use its wings and jump off the surface and then flit and fly and go to where it wants to go. That's called gaining an additional degree of freedom. So right now humanity is stuck to the surface of time. You wake up in the morning, and you have your breakfast, then you have your lunch, then you have your dinner. And you can't just jump off the surface of time and flit and fly directly to dinner. Even though, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could? Wouldn't it be wonderful if, with our perception, we could fly to whatever moment in time we wanted to fly to and skip all of the boring linear junk in between? And what if we could fly to sometime 3 billion years in the future? Or what if we could fly to sometime 3 billion years in the past? This is the understanding of how freeing, how unlimiting it would be if our consciousness could gain an additional degree of freedom. And this is what humans have previously defined as magical or seemingly impossible or superhuman. We are now coming into the realm of claiming what is superhuman. This is now real for us once we begin to activate these higher faculties. So the basic understanding is that humanity was cut off from their higher faculties for about the past 10 or 20,000 years due to genetic squashing, and that I invented a solution to the math proof that doesn't come into conflict. We're not cutting the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. We are morphing it. We are vibrating the membrane of time, not cutting it, so that now the past and the future can be communicative. And what that means in terms of experience is that with your mind, you don't have to physically travel with your physical body but with your consciousness and awareness, you can now communicate with beings who might have lived in deep antiquity, or you can communicate with beings that have not yet ever existed, according to this moment now. And I know I just got through telling you about how meditation is all about focusing on this moment now, and it is. This is not in conflict. In order to speak to beings that live on a far distant star system, it's necessary to fold space and time, because if you just sent out an impulse, said, "Hi, my name's Aurora, let's chat," that impulse would get to them if it was, a radio broadcast or a light beam moving at the speed of light in thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. By the time it actually reached them, they might all be dead. And by the time they responded back, I would be dead. In order to have a real-time conversation with beings that live in far distant places, we have to be able to fold time and space. And so this is part of the freedom that we are beginning to get. And this is also to give you an idea of what the sophisticated antediluvian, worldwide, galactically connected culture was like. It was not like being stuck in your little petri dish where you can't share ideas with other people in other places or in other times. If something happens in your time and place that's wonderful and you want to share, you can share it. You can share it with the ancient world, you can share it with the future world, you can share it with people that live far away. So this is when we gain our wings in the higher dimensional space. What we gain is a multi-dimensional perception. You begin to perceive time and the multiple timelines. So I am observing humanity, and I'm seeing that humanity is growing more and more in this direction, because the people that I interact with are beginning to understand and perceive the shifting of timelines and collapsing of realities or shifting of parallels within their own lives, where I've seen people have changes in health, either getting suddenly healthy or getting suddenly sick, and understanding that it was from a sudden change of timelines. And even on the night of the actual American election on November 8th, many people in my life reported to me that they had experiences and sensations of changing, sudden shifting and changing of timelines. And sometimes it can feel like lack of equilibrium or actual nausea, like motion sickness, and that this is real. You're not imagining things, you are actually perceiving a shift of the trajectory of your consciousness. So now when I say collaborative art project, I'm painting on a big giant mural. The big giant mural is called the Time Field. It is this beautiful embroidery. And I try to be a good artist. And I define a good artist as, someone who's a unique, original individual who does their own thing, and also who integrates with and collaborates well with all of the other creative people that have already been here working, that have already been making this happen. And I look at God or the divine as this amazing composer, as complex and amazing as Mozart or Beethoven or Bach. And in order for me to integrate my creations in with these, masters of creation, I need to understand music. I need to be musically literate. I need to perceive the pattern of notes that have already been created and played here in reality. And I'll also tell you, I've interacted with other people and other artists of consciousness who abhor structure. They don't like the structure, and I embrace the structure. I don't find it to be limiting to me at all. Like if you go to flyingrainbowlasagna.com, check out my artwork, and you'll see what I'm talking about. My artwork is very symmetrical and very there's a pattern that makes all of this happen, and I don't find that it is tying my hands or limiting me at all. I find great freedom in working with this pattern. And it's very much like, when I first started painting, I did not have a background in geometry, and I was also mathematically illiterate. I did not understand numbers, and I really had to do a lot of rehabilitation in my neurology and also self-education. And I started out just doing all of this freehand and not measuring. And I found that my paintings could achieve a certain amount of capturing what I was seeing inside in my inner vision, but not all of it. And that if I really wanted to accurately portray what I saw with my spirit eye in this higher dimensional realm, I had to do more education. I had to get more formal training. And so that was when I started to learn numbers and measure and learn about geometry, and self-educated and did all of this. And I found great freedom in learning these pre-established patterns so that I could then apply my artistry to the patterns. And I make aesthetic choices about how blue should the blue be? How red should the violet be? How much violet and red do I want in a particular painting? And now that I'm adept with this pattern, I can, I can choose what I emphasize. I can be like, I'm going to put a lot of red into this painting because I'm going to use a lot of 12-inch circles, or I'm going to put a lot of violet into this painting by using a lot of 1.7-inch circles. So I have found freedom through working within this pattern. I do not find it to be something that is imposed upon me or uncomfortable at all. And that is my analogy for working within the patterns of consciousness in the timelines of reality. Because you could say, well, hey, if you're an artist of reality, just wave your magic wand and poof, you can do whatever you want. However, we are working and collaborating with pre-established patterns. So a really effective magician would be an artist and wave their magic wand and integrate what they're doing with all of the other magic that's already here. There's a lot of other magic that's already here. Think about the genetic structures of all of the trees and all of the plants and the microbiome and everything that is in the ocean and all of the life that's here, the mineral realm. All of these are collaborators on this big, giant art project and embroidery of reality. It's all consciousness. And this is also how we can understand that the activities of humans on Earth are not only affecting or impacting humans, they're affecting and impacting all of the other life forms and consciousnesses that are housed here on Earth. And Earth is not separate from the rest of the galaxy, from the rest of the cosmos. That what happens here, this is what I'm trying to say, it might feel like we're in our little petri dish without contact from the rest of the world, but what is happening in this little petri dish is actually highly connected to the rest of the cosmos. And we are essentially growing the antidote to the distortion of the time field so that the entire time field can be healed. So I speak about this a lot, and I know that I'm jumping around a lot in this broadcast, but the symptoms that we experience on our planet and in human culture are not only on our planet. They are also on other planets of our solar system and in other areas of the galaxy and even further out and on other timelines. So this is the people who aren't good artists or who aren't good musicians should not be affecting the time field, but they have been. And this is due to the use of technology. And the technology is not just terrestrial technology with electrons that flow in a wire. It is technology that is used from hijacking DNA. DNA is actually a type of technology. It is a type of artifice, but it's not an evil or malevolent artifice. It is an artificial structure that was so perfectly imbued or intertwined with the biological realm that you can't even tell that it is not naturally occurring or, is a spontaneously arising part of the natural realm. So DNA is like a program or like a machine, and that made it possible for it to be hijacked and hacked or repurposed from its original purpose. It's like the strings of the guitar of your body got twisted and changed from their original tuning. And this is how come human beings aren't light eaters anymore. And we need to retune our guitars in order to get to be light eaters again. And I'll tell you, you don't have to bootstrap yourself on up. We are down in a hole that is so deep that it is not rational to expect ourselves to dig ourselves out from the hole. So we are embedded within a reality, and it is a loving reality. And there are many, many benevolent beings that are here to help us to get out of the hole. And so this also speaks to what is my purpose here? Why am I here? I'm usually an abstraction. I went through the very difficult experience of coming into this human female form by vibrating the genetic material with this particular dance called the flying rainbow lasagna, so that I could come here and tell you all with my flapping, moving mouth parts all about the flying rainbow lasagna and all about how you can apply it to your own genetic code, because the humans right now aren't able to effectively perceive the non-physical realm and receive information from it. that it's like the blindness of the spirit eye is making it so that you can't read, you can't check out books from the library, you can't learn about things. So I could write a beautiful book and put it in the library, that you need your spirit eye to be able to read, and no one would know about it. That's why I came here into the physical body. That's why I come on the radio. And I use my flapping, moving mouth parts to describe the lasagna to you. It's why I make sculptures and animations. Hey, you can also, pictures worth 1,000 words and animations worth 1,000,000 billion words. Go to Flying Rainbow Lasagna or YouTube Flying Rainbow Lasagna, my channel. And you can check out the conception of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, which is an animation that I created for an international math art conference where people would be there that don't speak English. And I had to somehow create a way of sharing these concepts without using English words. And so I used visual imagery and diagrams based on my paintings in order to convey this idea. So all of this is what I'm here for. I'm like a template. This is what you can do with a human body. You can take the body and you can vibrate it in this new way, or dance your genes in a new format and have this new experience. So Aurora is a reformatted version of what it is to be human. And yes, I'm much closer to what the original intended format of the human body is, or what it was intended to be. But when I first came into this body, I thought I could be just completely, fully a light eater. I didn't understand that I had to be in transition, and that was 15 years ago. I tried to just eat light. I didn't understand that I had to eat physical food too. And after finding out that my body was not sustained with just light, after a little while, I had to be like, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to eat and get food and figure it out in this realm. And then that was quite a steep learning curve. Like, I didn't know what is the right food to eat or how to prepare it or anything like that. That took a long time to learn about. And then I had to learn about the pollution that's in the food here, because there's a lot of things that are ingredients that you shouldn't actually eat, that are not meant for human consumption, but they're in the food anyway. So I had to get educated about what not to eat. So basically, yeah, do not eat anything genetically modified. And because of the neurological artifacts of the epilepsy in this body, I found out that it's not good for me to eat refined sugar. So I stopped eating corn syrup, and that was about in 2007. And that was just about the time that genetically modified corn and corn syrup products were coming into the American diet. And I really find that I helped my body immensely by avoiding the genetically modified corn syrup that is in so many things. So if you can, because let's say your guitar strings of your body are tuned to one particular genetic tuning, and you eat this other stuff that is genetically modified, it is out of tune food. And the more out of tune food that you eat, the more that it affects your own tuning. It is totally asinine. I cannot believe that science actually says, no, the genes that you eat do not have an impact on the genes or genetic structure of your body at all. I mean, I'm sorry, this is it is almost unfathomable, the distortion of human perception right now. So it is up to each one of you as an individual. Please do not expect your government or your institutions of higher learning or, science, whatever are the official thought structures of humanity. Please don't expect them to be thinking and perceiving clearly and protect you. Please think and perceive clearly on your own and protect yourself. And that's what this is all about, the soul migration. So I know I'm jumping around a lot in this particular broadcast, but the final denouement, we are on a soul migration. And that means that we've been here on Earth having these life experiences for a very long time, but this is like a schoolhouse for learning, and this is not the final destination, or this is like it's like a train station that we're in, and we've been here for a long time, but this is not the final destination. We're all preparing to go on our train journeys to the places that we are meant to be. So this is a refinement for consciousness. Go back to the time vortex. Your individual life and your individual incarnation is a refinery of your awareness, and you are meant to be refined from the periphery characteristics that aren't the real you towards your core values, the you that is the real you on an eternal sense. And it's the same thing with this planet. This planet has a dream. This planet is a person having a dream. And the events of reality have been very much distorted, and we've been living and occupying the periphery of the dream. And now what is happening is a refinement of awareness and a refinement of consciousness, where we're refocusing the timelines away from the periphery. And the periphery is death. That membrane is the membrane of death. The little tiny wormhole at the top of the funnel, or at the top of the time vortex, that is only big enough for one little timeline to get through. That's the path of least likelihood. That's how you get out of this level of reality. And all of the rest of reality is the aberration, or what is not supposed to exist. Death is not supposed to exist. You're not supposed to hit the membrane of death and be unmade and have to circulate back to the beginning and try again. If you do the video game right, you're supposed to just be on that path of least likelihood. However, because humanity is flying blind, you can't see where you're going. You crash into the wall of death many, many, many times. But now I'm telling you, through the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, humanity has the capacity to restructure their genes, one's genes. And now you can activate your higher faculties again. And now you can see that you're about to smash into a brick wall. If you're on a timeline that is not a good timeline, you now get to change. And you change using the steering wheel of your awareness. So in ancient Egypt, this was described as your bark, B-A-R-Q-U-E. It's your raft that you sail on the afterlife. You know, in ancient Egypt, they had these big rafts, these barks that would float down the Nile. And the idea is that the solar disk is the sun bark of Ra, and that the gods and goddesses, the ascended masters of their description of religion, people who have made it through the wormhole, live on that sun bark, and they sail across the sky every day. And it's called joining the stellar network. This is how experts do star travel, not with a clank-clank metal spaceship. We don't spend our whole lives digging ore out of the ground and smelting it and fashioning it into metal plates that can be welded together so that we can fly off into physical star system. No, no, no. Ah, ha, ha, ha. I clutch my pearls. No, what we do is spend our whole entire life refining our consciousness and cultivating our both physical and non-physical body through different meditation practices and energy visualizations like the Merkaba or the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and use our body, and not just the physical body, but every layer of our body, to perform the soul migration upon death or upon exiting this realm. So death is not the end. Physical death, if you die, you hit the membrane of death, it's the end of your journey, you're going to just circulate back again. However, it is possible to extend your journey and have continuity of consciousness. This is analogous to lucid dreaming. When you lucid dream, you go through the transition of consciousness from waking consciousness to sleeping consciousness, but you maintain your continuity. And you know, I'm the person that usually is awake, but I'm here in a dream, and then you do your thing in a dream, and then you can also take your information of what you experienced there back into your fully waking state. And this is what meditators and practitioners of the Far East have learned to cultivate between lives. These are the high lamas, the karmapas. Karmapa, he is the 17th incarnation of a particular entity. Doesn't mean that he jumped from body to body without going back into the void. It means that he has continuity of consciousness, that he remembers his dream 17 layers back, who he was for 17 lifetimes. And that is not by accident. All of that is through cultivation. If you look at a person who's a big, well-built muscle man, and he's able to do push-ups balanced on, one fingertip, that's not by accident. That person cultivated their body and their physical structure through their whole life to be able to perform that amazing maneuver, or, a yogi that can do an amazing back bend or pretzel knot or something like that. These practitioners from the Far East who transfer their consciousness and they're able to have continuity along many timelines, they're like the muscle men who have been doing push-ups for a very long time. They know how to do this. And it also tells you that if you start doing push-ups, you can do it too. And this is what we are doing. It's time. It's time for all of humanity. This is what birth of a new dimension means. Leaving the old realm. We're on a soul migration like a bunch of geese. We're all going to jump off the surface of time. And we're all going to fly in formation to a new place. This is the new place. And the new place is called the combination of spirit and matter. where we now have matter that is fully imbued with spirit or consciousness or awareness, as opposed to the realm that we're leaving. This is Einstein's realm. We love Einstein. He's awesome. He's a genius. But he gave you bars on your cage of consciousness. He gave you an equation that is duality and in opposition. Matter versus energy. That's it. E is energy equals mc squared. That's matter. Puts matter and energy constantly in opposition to one another. And the new realm is the realm that we occupy. It's like the equals sign in between matter and energy. If we could bring matter and energy together so that they are now superimposed upon one another, and we have this experience of matter that responds instantaneously to our thought. The ego structure is a false narrative. The ego structure has told you that you are an individual and your name is Johnny or Sally or Harry, and this is your home address and this is your color of your hair and this is your favorite sweater, and that you're separate from the world. And you're not separate from the world. You are constantly touching the world with your attention. You are not swimming around in the own private kiddie pool of your own reality. You're connected to a much larger reality. The vibrating guitar strings of your DNA are constantly affected by and being affected by. They are sending out things that affect others and being affected by others. You are submerged within a sea of microbes. Microbes coat your body. Microbes are inside of your body. You're constantly expelling microbes. You are in a sea of energy. You're constantly ingesting energy and emitting energy, like caloric energy, your breath, kinetic energy, sound energy. You are not separate from the world. And now we understand we're part of a cosmic symphony. And now we understand the symphony has a composer. And we are musicians in the great symphony. And the amazing thing that's happening right now is humanity is getting to retune all of our individual instruments. We're getting to become musically literate, where you can actually see, you can read the musical score. Wow, life is different. I'm learning music myself, and I used to play by ear, and it's always you're guessing. You're like, what's the next note? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? I don't know. When you can read the score, you know what the next note is. You can see it. It's written there. The next note is a C, and I know exactly what it is, and I know exactly when to play it. This is being in divine co-creative partnership with the great composer. We activate our spirit eye, our inner eye, our higher faculties, and we can see through time. We can see what is the next note that is coming up. What am I going to be expected to do? What thought or action or approach is the right thing for me to do in the time field? And when we all play our instruments, really well, like experts in the conservatory, we don't die. We don't have to hit the membrane of death. Earth does not wish to hit the membrane of death. This is a really hopeful message for anyone who's feeling despair. If you look at the environmental degradation that is going on right now, seriously, things like Fukushima and other forms of artificial weather control, like, emissions from planes and EMFs and NEXRAD and HARP, all of that is all, a horrible insult to Earth and to the planet. And there are other things that are going on, like CERN, artificial magnetic fields on a grand scale, that are also insulting and harmful to the planet. And our planet does not want to have to physically die. Just like I do not wish to have to physically die, and it's not necessary. In fact, I'm here to tell you that because of the flying rainbow lasagna, you can die without dying, or you can transcend the necessity of death. You can go through that tiny wormhole instead of hitting the membrane, because you can finally activate your higher faculties and see where you are going. So as a planet now, we don't have to hit the membrane of death. We don't have to just face extinction, total destruction. We can radically restructure our experience. This is what the soul migration is. For anyone who is laboring under the delusions of biblical literalism, this idea of in eschaton, an end to everything. That's all. It's Judeo-Christianity. It's not in every culture. It is programmed in as the predominant culture, predominant idea structure of this culture on this time and place on this planet. It's not necessarily true. It's an expectation, just like you are programmed in with the expectation of physical death. But physical death is not the only option. There's the option of ascension, and ascension is not analogous to a floating upwards like a rapture. It is changing of your vibration, a changing of your energy field. That's what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. It is a tool for ascension, for us to change our energy fields. So I'm almost at the end of this broadcast. I try to make it to include messages of hope, that eating the lasagna should make you feel nourished and hopeful, that you do not have to die in your physical body, and this does not have to be the end of your journey or your continuity of consciousness, even if you do die or transform your physical body, and that we are all moving into a much greater expanded experience. That's what Birth of a New Dimension is, where matter and spirit will not be separate, but will be connected and fully interpenetrating. So it's the end of the broadcast for today, but please continue to be with me on this journey, and check out flyingrainbowlasagna.com and all the recorded videos that I have available there. Thank you so much.